So sister, this will be easier for you. Just put it like this. Okay, just put it like this. You can press like that. It can be pushed here, or if you want to walk.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Just bring this closer to you.
Okay.
That here.
Sounds good.
Should we make the announcement that we're about to start?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Brothers and sisters, inshallah, we are about to start. If you are here in the masjid, inshallah, sisters, you can come in the min musalla. And brothers, we are starting, inshallah, immediately. So please come back to the min prayer area. Jazakumullah khair.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Amara Raza, and I am, just want to make sure this stays like this. And I'm a part of this wonderful organization called Darus Sakina. So, just going to work out a few glitches over here. And, okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So, Darus Sakina, I don't know if the people in this room are aware of this organization or not, but the presentation today is more so based on the concept of disability, the concept of inclusion, the concept of diversity, and we'll dive deep into it, and hopefully, I'll be able to answer your questions. So, throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, please raise your hands, and we can talk about it as we're going along. So, okay. Oh, sorry, this is kind of, okay, we'll go from here. So, just wanted to give you a quick overview of the presentation, what we'll be talking about today. So, we'll be talking about what disabilities are, why is disability awareness important, because that's the main goal and purpose of the presentation today, what you can do as an individual to raise awareness about disability, and what we can do as a community. And in the end, we'll highlight the role of the Muslim Ummah when it comes to raising awareness about disability and including those who have disabilities in the community. So let's talk about what is a disability. And I think most of us do have an idea, but a disability is a condition of the body or the mind that can make it difficult or impossible for a person to walk, see, hear, speak, learn, or interact with the world around them. So, some disabilities are very easy to identify, right? If somebody's in a wheelchair and they can't walk, you know that they have a disability. Or if somebody is visually impaired and they have a cane in their hand, it's easy to tell. Or if somebody visibly has cerebral palsy and you can say, oh, I know they have a disability. However, there are some disabilities that are not very obvious. For example, autism spectrum disorder. So those individuals may, on the surface, look completely neurotypical, completely quote unquote normal, but they have impairments in their thought process sometimes, which makes it difficult for them to interact with the surrounding around them. So, and the reason I think it's important to highlight this is because sometimes when you take an individual who does not physically look disabled and you ask for accommodations, sometimes you get people raised eyebrows because they're like, this person isn't disabled. So it's important to recognize that not all disabilities are visible. Now here are some statistics, because I know we all love statistics. More than 1 in 4 adults in the United States have some type of disability. That's a huge number. So I bet one of us in this room maybe has some disability. So it's important to recognize that the prevalence is pretty high. Nearly 1/3 of American Muslims have a family member with a disability. That's also a number that is quite high, much higher than we think, right? Now, let's talk about the types of disabilities. We talked about physical disabilities, which include, cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, amputations, spina bifida, multiple sclerosis. Then there are intellectual and developmental disabilities, which include Down syndrome, autism, developmental delays, cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy can have both a physical component and as well as an intellectual and developmental component. And then there are sensory disabilities like hearing impairment, visual impairment, different sorts of impairments. And then there are other disabilities which are related to mental health. For example, ADHD, eating disorders, food allergies, anxiety, depression, OCD, dyslexia, which is a learning disability, a learning difference. So the umbrella of disabilities has a lot of different diagnoses under it. And again, as you know, some of them are visually visible and some are not. You may never know who has anxiety or who has OCD. So it's important to keep in mind that there's a vast definition of the types of disabilities. So why is disability awareness important? I think this question, awareness for, if you want to learn about something, right? Something that you don't know about, you need to create awareness. And the people who know about it, it's their job to create the awareness. So why is it important? Let's talk about it. So whenever you see someone who is different from you, let's talk about the individuals in this room. I think most of us are immigrants from somewhere else. So when we moved to this country, we were different, right? We were the outsiders. So it was upon the people of this country to include us, to emulsify us into the culture of this religion. Imagine that if we didn't know how to speak English, and everybody around us spoke English, how isolating would it be? So if you have someone who has a different ability, who is different from you, who perhaps cannot walk or who cannot talk, then the responsibility lies upon the people who have those abilities to create an environment which will include those individuals. So the empathy, compassion is the core of everything. So awareness is important because it builds knowledge and it also leads to emotional intelligence. And once you're aware of something, you're more likely to learn about it more. You're more likely to ask questions, right? For example, if you have never met anyone with a disability, or if you don't know what a disability is, you'll be even shy to ask questions because you won't know maybe this is going to offend that person or not. So, and also, the concept of empathy and compassion is also the basis of a religion. So it's very important keeping in lines with the prophetic values and the sunnah. And also, when you become aware, then you will create an environment which will include people with disabilities. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, the parable of the believers in their affection, mercy and compassion for each other is that of a body. When one limb aches, the whole body reacts with sleeplessness and fever. So what does this mean? What it means is that as Muslims, we are all a community. We're like a single body. So if one part of your body is suffering, the rest of your body will kind of jump in. If there's an infection, the body will try to fight the infection. So as Muslims, it is our responsibility. It's not just, it's just not a choice. It's an obligation to help those who may have a disability and who otherwise may be excluded from the mosque because of several reasons, from the community. So it's not even a responsibility, it's an obligation. I'd like to share my own story with all of you, and I think this part of the presentation is very personal to me because obviously when you share your own story, you become vulnerable, right? Because you're exposing parts of your life which otherwise people may not know. So, like I said, my name is Amara Raza and I am a cardiologist by profession. But the one thing that has brought me the most joy in my life is to be a mother to a now 11-year-old daughter who was born profoundly deaf and who is also on the autism spectrum. And I would say that her birth was really what changed my perspective on life and this world, because it just opened up a completely new definition, a dimension that I wasn't really aware of. So Lena was born in the year 2013, and as soon as she was born, we found out that she was profoundly deaf. And I still remember when we found out that she was profoundly deaf, it was like the loss of a dream. It was like the death of a dream. So, I have many mothers over here, and if you're a mother, you know that when you're expecting your first child, or just a child in general, there's so many thoughts that go in your mind, right? Okay, so I'm gonna put them in this school. I'm gonna put them in this activity. I'm gonna expect them to do this. So I had similar dreams. Me and my husband had similar dreams. But when she was born and we found out that she was deaf, there was a lot of dreams that just suddenly died, right? So it took us a while to come to terms with the fact that what we had imagined for her will not be her trajectory, but her journey and our journey will still be very beautiful, very rewarding. But it was a process to go from a complete place of despair and hopelessness to a place of so much hope, so much strength, so much courage. So when Lena was born, we found out she was profoundly deaf. We found out she had some other disabilities as well. And so, we went through this phase of adjustment, but we knew that process of mourning was going to be very short, because at the end of the day, we had to get over it. We had to get her into therapy. We had to get her what she needed, because as parents, we're their advocates, right? So we are the ones who are going to rally for them. So we did that. We went from being very hopeless to being very, very determined. Me and my husband became like researchers. We knew everything about hearing loss. We knew everything about the other disabilities she had, and we were just at it, But it came at a cost. It came at a cost that it took away a lot from her social life. We really didn't have a social life. Me and my husband were constantly into therapy. We were just going from one hospital to the other. We found out that Lena needed cochlear implants because she was profoundly deaf. So the whole process, the whole journey was very daunting, but we kept it together. But it led to social isolation. We couldn't go to a lot of places. We had to stop going to the mosque, because when we'd go to the mosque, she was very loud. So once we were even asked to leave the mosque, and I don't really blame anyone, because if a place doesn't have the accommodations for special needs individuals, even taking them to that environment is unfair for special needs individuals. So we just didn't go to the mosque. I, being a very social, very outgoing person, I suddenly didn't have any friends, because what happens is that if you don't show up to places, out of sight, out of mind, and people are like, oh, they probably don't want to hang out. But that taught me a lesson, that if I go to a mosque and I suddenly don't see a member come in for several weeks or a month, I'm going to check on them, because maybe something is happening in their life. Maybe that's why they're not showing up. So, it led to social isolation, and social isolation is a huge part of special needs families, because we don't get invited to play dates. We don't get invited to big gatherings, because sometimes our kids can be loud. Sometimes they can be inconvenient. So sometimes, people don't want to include them because their kids don't like them. So on and so forth. Again, I don't put a blame on anyone. I think the issue is there's not much awareness, right? So at that point in time, I decided that being a special needs mom, I'll take it upon myself to raise awareness. And lo and behold, I was in Cincinnati at that point in time. Our mosque, I just realized actually they were very accommodating once I told them about everything. They opened up like a small room in the mosque for actually all moms who had little kids, who would cry during Taraweeh, who would cry during namaz time, and they could go sit over there. So all it took was me asking, actually. So I urge all of you, it doesn't just apply to special needs individuals or special needs families. If you feel that you need an accommodation, ask. And I ensure you, people will comply, because in general, humans are good. Humans want to include, but it's just that we have to have the courage to ask. And it's not really about making yourself vulnerable too, because I told you about my daughter's special needs today. I don't think the response that I elicited was one of pity. I think it was one of like, hey, that's a strong mom. So any difficulty you're going through in life, whether it is depression, anxiety, whatever, share it with someone, because your journey may resonate with someone else, and it may give someone else the strength to do the same. So it's very important. So anyways, Lena was doing great in therapy. We were going for therapy literally several hours every day, and it was paying off. She started to talk, she started to walk, albeit it was late. It was at 4 that she actually started walking, and 4 that she actually started talking. But it was a journey. Then I had to figure out, how do I figure out this whole school thing now, Does she go to like a regular school, or do I need to put her in a specialty school? So there weren't much resources available readily. Like, even though we live in the United States of America, which is supposed to be, and it is actually, there's a lot of accommodations for special needs individuals, but the resources are not like right there, like you just go and somebody hands them to you. You literally have to figure it out, And imagine, like, if you're new to this country, or if you have a language barrier or an education barrier, it becomes even more difficult. So luckily we have organizations like Darus Sakina, which will actually, if you go to Darus Sakina, they will actually hold your hand and guide you. So we're so lucky that we live in a city that we have an organization which is compliant with a religion which understands us, our limitations, and is able to guide us. So we're very lucky. In Ohio, I didn't have that, but I was able to connect with people who did guide me. So, so the challenges that special needs families face are one of social isolation. It also leads to mental health issues. The mosque, which is a place of, it's a sanctuary for all, a lot of special needs families don't have access to it, right? Because once you bring special needs individuals to the mosque, they may have sensory issues, so on and so forth, so it becomes difficult. So it leads to a sense of abandonment for the special needs families. But again, we're so lucky that we have Darus Sakina. Did you all know that Darus Sakina has Sunday schools which services over, I think, 5 mosques in the greater Houston area now, where our children can go and participate in the Sunday school program, where they can get their spiritual nourishment and have a sense of community. Now, for most people, when I ask them, do your kids like Sunday school? And they're like, no, it's a struggle to take them. I kid you not, Lena, she loves Sunday school. In fact, on Monday, she waits for Sunday, because when she enters the walls of her Sunday school, she is treated like a celebrity. Everybody loves her. And everybody sees her for the hero she is, right? Because, I mean, let's face it, this world is built for the abled individuals. And this concept came to me after a long time, but let's imagine if everyone in this world was hearing impaired, deaf, and everybody signed, and there was one individual who could talk and could hear, then who'd be the odd one out? The one who could hear, not the ones who were signing. So this world is set up for the abled. This mosque is actually set up for the abled, right? I mean, it's good that there's inclusion over here, but there are no hearing accessibility devices, if you were to talk about it. There are no, if you break it down to the basics, everything is built around for the abled. So at our Sunday schools, though, our children, the special needs children, are treated like celebrities. They're treated like heroes. They're taught surahs, they're taught namaz. We were just traveling recently, and we went to a church actually, just to visit the church, to look at the architecture, and Lena sat down in the pew and she started to pray. She started saying, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. And I was just so happy to see that, and I asked her, I was like, Lena, who taught you that? She's like, oh, my Sunday school teacher did, mommy. And it just made me so happy, because our souls, they need the spiritual enrichment, right? And special needs individuals also have a right to that. So Darus Sakina is doing that for our kids. So it's very important. And last but not the least, I would like to share a very personal feeling, a fear that special needs families have, that as long as, I know when I'm around Lena, I'll watch out for her. I'll take care of her. I'm sure of that. I'll be her champion. I'll be her advocate. If somebody needs to fight for her, I'll fight for her. Dad's going to fight for her. But our biggest fear is that what will happen to my child when we're not around? Who's going to take care of her? Who's going to be her champion? Who's going to view her as the hero that she is? That's a big fear. And when I talk to other special needs families, they share the same fears. It's not just me, and it's a big deal. So my hope is that Darus Sakina as an organization one day will grow to a point that we'll be able to have group homes. We'll be able to have a residential facility for Muslims with special needs, where they'll be treated with the same dignity and respect that a religion affords them. That'll be a huge undertaking. But do you know that Darus Sakina is in the process of building a day hab program for special needs teenagers and adults now? Because what happens is that once you age out of the school system, once you turn 16, 18, then special needs individuals, they don't have access to regular services. If a neurotypical child, they'll probably go off to college, find a job. The same does not apply to special needs kids. So what do they do the whole day? They probably just hang around their home, or you can go to one of the community day hab programs, and I kid you not, they're not very nice. You wouldn't want your own family member to go there. So Darus Sakina is in the process of actually building a day hab program, which will be able to service our special needs teens and even adults on a daily basis, where they can go learn maybe vocational skills, or they can hang out with their friends, maybe watch TV. And again, within the compliance of a religion. I recently met actually a special needs mom in our Darus Sakina facility at Masjid at Ilm Academy. And her daughter's now 31 actually. And I was like, what does she do the whole day? She's like, she just sits around at home. I was like, have you not tried to find a job for her? She's like, I did, but when she one day visited her daughter at the job, she was very disappointed by the way she was being treated, so she just pulled her out. So it made me think, my daughter's pretty young right now, she's 12, but we're headed there, But the fact that AlSalam as an organization is doing so much, I fully plan to engage in this project of making a residential facility, and it's going to be a huge undertaking, but I think we can do it. We can make that happen in Houston, and we will be such trailblazers, and it will be such a relief for so many special needs families. So it's very important to know that. So anyhow, we spent the first 8 years of Lena's life in Ohio, in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then we moved to Houston around 4 years ago, and when we moved to Houston, again, it was very daunting because we had to literally start from all over again, right? Because we had to learn how to, what school do we need to put her into, what services are available. Luckily, I was able to access AlSalam, and they really helped me out, and I didn't have to struggle as much as I did when Lena was a baby and we were in Ohio. And now I feel like a fully functional part of AlSalam, and I feel so honored to be here amongst all of you. So it's a great honor for me. So, being a special needs mom, I'm gonna free talk. I call it free talk because I'm gonna really speak my mind. I've heard it all, being a special needs mom. I've heard stuff like, and I'm gonna say this in Urdu and then I'm gonna say it in English, like, आप अल्लाह से माफ़ी मांग लें, आपने गुनाह कोई किया होगा कि आपकी बेटी को ये हुआ है. Meaning that people have asked me to ask Allah's forgiveness. And my daughter, who's the most precious gift of Allah for me, was actually a punishment from Allah. People will ask me, they've told me, go to this Baba, I'll give you their number. They're actually, they heal black magic. I've been told all sorts of crazy things. I'm not going to get into that right now, but it's very, very disappointing that somebody would look at your child as a punishment for you, It is very disappointing, but I've heard it all. It's you basically, and people also think, like, here's my daughter standing right here. She's highly functional now, mashallah, she understands. And people kind of talk about her like she's not there. And I've had to stop people. I'm like, she's right here. You can actually ask her. You can talk to her. Special needs people can hear. Some do not talk, but some can. So before making assumptions, please ask, So it's crazy, the thought process. And again, when people have come up to me and told me, like, seek Allah's forgiveness, I haven't really thought of them as being like malicious. I think it's just a lack of awareness, right? Because that's what the culture kind of promotes, that if you're in any hardship, you must have done something bad. But in actuality, any hardship is actually Allah's way of purifying our soul. It's Allah's way of telling us that you can do this, you're strong. It's Allah's way of showing us all the blessings around us. For me as an individual, what has changed for me by being a special needs mom, I'll tell you what. Prior to all of this, I was a very type A individual. I was very type A. I was just like, have to be the best at this, have to do this. I was raised like that, to be the best at everything, That's our society, that's culturally, But after I got Lena, I realized that what is best? Best is it's just relative, right? What may be best for you may not be best for me, may not be best for that person. So it's very relative. So the definition of success got revised for me. Now, I look at everything, like the first time Lena walked at 4 years of age, that I could say was the most happiest day of my life. I felt like I had accomplished everything. And even if she didn't walk, I was mentally prepared that she won't walk because her doctor told us to get a wheelchair actually. For me, everything, her being with me was success. Her being close to me gave me strength. So my advice to everyone is that if you meet someone who's in any kind of hardship, whether they have an individual with special needs or whether they have some kind of illness going on, and I think it's a natural tendency, even now people tell me, "Aap please 5 namaze pad liya karen." Yes. And I know praying is good, I'm not saying praying is bad, but that advice, sometimes it can rub someone the wrong way. Because when you tell someone, do you pray 5 times a day, it implies that these people are not really close to Allah, that's why Allah has given them so many hardships. In fact, if you see someone with a hardship, if you see someone with a child with special needs, just try to befriend them. Once you become friends with someone, the conversation is pretty easy, right? Because when I used to live in Ohio, I was lucky enough later on to meet some really, really cool people who really drew me out of the shadows, and they were so nice. Like, they would call me and be like, "Hey Amara, we want to have your family over for dinner today. How can we make it comfortable for you guys?" And I'd be like, "Hey, that's so nice of you to ask. Would it be possible for you not to serve the dessert, like to put the dessert away towards the end? Because whenever Lena would see dessert, that'd be a trigger for her. And it would just kind of make her very, very hyperactive." And they would be like, "Yeah, fine. Is there anything else we can do for you?" And I'd be like, "Would there be a room where we could go if she becomes really agitated?" "Yeah, sure." So they would never ask me, like, they would just ask me what I needed, but they would never give me unsolicited advice, right? Because you don't need that. You don't need unsolicited advice all the time. You just need to be, sometimes you just need to be. Sometimes you just need to show up and not be treated as like an oddity. You just want to be a part of a community. So that's what we need to do for anyone who's in a hardship. And once you become friends with someone, then they'll open up to you, right? Then they'll tell you, "Hey, I need help with this." I remember like this one time my other daughter had a very important event and I could not take Lena. So I asked my friend, I was like, "Listen, can you take care of her?" And that was the first time I'd ever asked anyone to help me out with my daughter, because I'd become so comfortable with them. She's like, "For sure, just tell me what you need to do." So the myths related to special needs individuals, to disabilities, they're a gazillion myths, and I can go over each one of them, but we need to debunk them. Special needs families are just like regular families. They need some accommodations. Special needs individuals are individuals. Some of them can talk. Most of them can talk, actually. Some cannot, but don't assume that none of them can talk and all of them have a very low IQ. They won't be able to understand you. We need to debunk these myths and these assumptions. Alrighty, so just a little video that our Darus Sakina members made. This all is, it just makes me very emotional because it just tells you that special needs individuals are more than their diagnosis, right? They have a personality, they have hobbies, they have interests, and they're just amazing. I'll tell you that if you were to ever get to know a special needs individual, like at a deeper level, you'd be so honored because they're just like angels. Their hearts are so pure. And I'm getting to realize this every day more and more by talking to Lena. She doesn't have a single ill feeling for anyone. Everyone's her best friend. She loves everyone. So how lucky are we that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put these individuals around us? You know, but we are the ones who need to, I'm lucky that my daughter has special needs, so I live that life. But if you don't have someone with special needs in your families, in our community we have so many people, so go befriend them, befriend their families, and get to be a part of this amazing lifestyle. Okay, so where am I now? So let's just scroll it down. Okay, sorry, okay, let me go back to slideshow from okay, perfect, thank you so much. So when we're talking about inclusion, we talk about inclusion a lot. Inclusion is just not about special needs. Inclusion is for any group of individuals that is different. For example, as Muslims, we need to be included in the grand picture in the United States of America. As if you're an immigrant, then you need to be included in the social fabric of the society, right? Similarly, any vulnerable group, like special needs individuals, they need to be included. They need to be included at the school level, at the mosque, in the community, because the community also extends beyond the mosque, right? So they need to be included everywhere. There has to be absolutely no space of discrimination. We should never allow discrimination at any level. If you witness any discrimination, it's your moral responsibility to go and correct it right there. For example, if you're seeing an individual coming in with a wheelchair and you see that, oh, there's no accessibility ramp in this place, it's your job to go and talk to the authority over there and be like, there's no accessibility ramp, what can we do? Or if that special needs individual is capable of advocating for themselves, it's your job to guide them. So there's absolutely no space for discrimination. We need to become accepting as a community. The biggest barrier towards inclusion and acceptance is the lack of knowledge, right? When you don't know about something, you're generally going to be afraid. When I didn't have a child with special needs, I'm embarrassed to say, I didn't know anyone with special needs in my life. Didn't know anyone. So my biggest concern was always, I didn't want to say something if I met someone who has special needs. I didn't want to offend them, Out of that fear of not offending them, I just stayed away. I was like, I don't know what, if I say this, maybe, and sometimes I even had like genuine questions, right? But I wouldn't ask because I was just like, no, this is going to offend them. I'm not going to say this. But I'll tell you, as a mother of a child with special needs, nothing offends me. As long as it's coming from a place of genuinely wanting to know and help, it does not offend me. My daughter wears cochlear implants. Multiple people ask her, and now she's her own advocate actually. They ask us, what is this? And we just love telling people that what cool devices these are, what a miracle it is that a child who's born profoundly deaf can hear now. She has a vascular malformation, she wears a sock. People randomly ask us, like, what is a sock? And we tell them, because most people want to know, they're curious because they want to be involved. So don't be afraid. If you want to ask someone a question, again, one can tell when it's coming from a place of, just wanting to be nosy versus of actual, for example, for all the women in this room who wear a hijab, I know we've all been asked several times, how do you go for a swim? Do you wear your hijab? That's such a common question for everyone. I don't know why. But, I still answer that question because most people are genuinely curious, right? It's not coming from a place of, poking fun at us. They just want to know because they've never met anyone with a hijab before. Similarly, if you want to know something about special needs, ask us, ask the family members. And I tell you, most of the people I know and myself, we'll never be offended. And I want to introduce one more concept over here for everyone. It's equality versus equity. Now, Once you have become an advocate for inclusion, now you need to understand this concept, equality versus equity. Equality is that, and it again extends beyond just special needs. It extends beyond, what we're talking about right now. Like, let's say if you were to have a race, a bicycle race, right? And you say, okay, I'm going to be equitable, so I'm going to go for equality. I'm going to give everyone in this room a bicycle, and we're all going to start from the same point, and I'm being really good. You're giving everyone an opportunity. But what if one of those individuals actually cannot ride a bike because they're in a wheelchair, right? Even though you gave them the opportunity, but you did not provide them with the accommodation, right? So let's move on to the concept of equity. Moving from equality, we have to be equitable, which means that if you have to provide the accommodations. For example, if this mosque is open for people of all abilities, then it must cater to people with disabilities and meet them where they are. Meaning, if somebody has cochlear implants, ideally the mosque should be equipped with a device which will directly stream to their device. If somebody is, for example, visually impaired, we should have a braille over here which is Quran. So the concept of equity is very important, and this, like I said, it extends beyond just special needs. It extends for example, as Muslims, if we are given the opportunity to work in a certain organization, to be equitable, we don't, our religious prayers aren't on Sunday, they're on Friday. Technically, we should be allowed to go and pray, right? That's being equitable. So the concept is very important. Unfortunately, despite the fact we live in an advanced country, in the school setting, there's equality, but there's no equity. The special needs kids still suffer because they're not provided with proper accommodations. So that's important to know. But Darus Sakina is sort of meeting us where we are. So our Sunday schools, like I said, if you have not visited the Darus Sakina Sunday School, do make it a point to visit one, see what magical work is happening over there. And you'll be so inspired. You'll be inspired to the point that you may actually consider volunteering over there. So whenever you get a chance, you all are lucky enough that this mosque has a Darus Sakina Sunday School. So just pop in and, we'll show you around, and I'm sure you're going to love it. So again, what can you do? So you've taken the first step by being here right now. That's the first step, right? And I congratulate all of you, because you could have been on this Sunday at home, having a cup of coffee or doing something else, but instead you chose to come over here and learn about Darus Sakina, learn about special needs families. So you've taken the first step. You have that fire inside of you and you want to know more. Now, what can you do? What else can you do? When my kids were in preschool, their teachers always used to talk to them about growth mindset, right? And I'm sure if you have little kids, you've all heard about the growth mindset. The growth mindset doesn't have to stop in the formidable years of your life. It has to go throughout, right? So even as adults, we have to have that growth mindset. We should be able to accept very gracefully, hey, I don't know about this, so I'm going to learn about this, right? So gain awareness and knowledge. And again, there's so many cool ways to, gain awareness now. If you're on social media, you can start to follow some individuals with special needs. You learn about the different terminologies, the different events. You can attend events like this. You can tell your friends to come and attend events like this. And again, these are some people you can follow on Instagram who do a great job of talking about inclusion, special needs. Especially follow Darus Sakina Houston, because we regularly post about our events, what's going on, and you really enjoy it. And also remember, we have to coexist, right? We live in a day and time now in which we are all coexisting, right? There's a church, there's a mosque, there's a mandir, we all coexist. So learn to coexist with individuals with special needs. Don't get uncomfortable, don't get awkward, because they're not. So it's our job to gain knowledge so we can be more comfortable. I'm sure they are, but we need to be more comfortable. And again, have pure intentions. Never, if you have good intentions, if your intentions are pure, the knowledge will come to you. So that's very important. And just do your best, Sometimes, we all set out to learn, to do certain things, and we're kind of hard on ourselves, There's no deadline that you have to become a master in special needs relations and rights, no. But every day, learn a little bit more. If your kids go to like mainstream school, in every public school, in every class, there are special needs individuals, right? Now, my daughter, I have a neurotypical daughter and I have a special needs daughter. So my daughter who's neurotypical, whenever she's having an event, I ask her, so are we inviting all the kids in your class? Or if she's having a birthday, for example, No, I was like, no, we're going to invite everyone because we don't want to be exclusive. Because I'm not going to ask her who's the special needs child in your class, but just be inclusive. And honestly, as little as the kids are, their growth mindset is much better than ours. So I talk to my kids regularly. I talk to them like, if you see somebody who's different, it is your job to include them. It is your job to be kind. And even at that young, tender age, their minds are so receptive and they're so nice. My younger daughter's friend, she has dyslexia. And my daughter came and told me, she's like, Mommy, my friend has dyslexia, and some of the kids were making fun of her because when she reads, the words dance around. So I told them that it's a special needs and you cannot do that. And it made me so proud. And then when it was her birthday, I was like, what do you want to give her for her birthday? She's like, Mommy, I don't think I want to give her books because that's just going to make her, it's going to be very difficult for her. So let's give her something she'll enjoy. So at such a young age, at the age of 9, she was so kind and thoughtful, and it made me really proud. So do your best, teach your kids. It's very important. Communication. Now, when communicating with people with special needs, like I said, most of them can talk. If they can talk, sometimes their comprehension may not be the best. So, if they're with their parent, and if you really want to befriend this individual, just ask the parent, and the ones who cannot talk, they can also communicate, right, with gestures. And again, never assume that this is just like a body without any emotions and feelings, and I can say anything around them, I can do anything around them. No. Be very mindful and be very respectful. And keep in mind their preference too. Sometimes not everyone's going to be so open, right? I may be a very open individual and I may be very comfortable in talking about this. Some people are not, Even I have some friends who have special needs kids and I don't talk to them about it because I know they don't want to talk about it. But you can assess that comfort level, right? So respect their wishes. And then, don't take it personally if they don't want to. Maybe that's just their personality, regardless of the fact whether they're a special needs family or not. Maybe they want to be private. Don't take it personally. Don't let it deter you from befriending another special needs family. So again, it's a journey. We're all in this together and we're all learning together. The best thing I've learned in life is not to take anything personally, because you don't know what an individual is what's going on in their life, So give everyone grace and they'll give you back the same grace. So again, words, talk the talk, but also walk the walk, right? So I hope that once we all leave this room, if you are a family who has never been exposed to special needs, I hope you're going to make an effort and go out in the community. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be in the mosque, even in your kids' class. Maybe next time if you have a play date, include a special needs child, because it means the world to them, Inclusion is a big problem. And then, always be a helping hand, if you know somebody is struggling, maybe just help out with providing a meal, whatever you can do, And then at the end of the day, what we want is we want everyone to be an advocate for people with special needs, because it's just not, hey, it's just her problem. No, it's not a problem, it's a responsibility, right? As Muslims, if you think about Islam is a religion that is based on social reform, Our services as Muslims, as our responsibility as Muslims extends beyond this mosque. We are cut from the same fabric, If I know there's a vulnerable group in my community, it is my obligation. I'm obligated to help them. And when I help them, it should not come from a place of high-handedness. It should not come from a place of, hey, this is my charity for the day. No, it is our responsibility. So when we walk, we all walk together. We never leave anyone behind. So we have to have that mind frame. So become an advocate, because that's what we all need. The more advocates we have, the more awareness we have, and I assure you the community is going to become more inclusive. Again, talking about the Muslim community, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon, had emphasized multiple times about the rights of special needs individuals. Once he was talking to some people from the Quraysh tribe, and they were really high ups in that tribe, and he was talking to them, and there was an individual in the Muslim community who was blind, and he used to always come and talk to the Prophet ﷺ. He used to tap him like this, and the Prophet would always talk to him. And when he came during that gathering, and when he was talking to the people from Quraysh, he did this, and the Prophet got visibly upset, because he was just I'm trying to talk to these people over here, why is he bothering me? And he told him to go away, and he said, I'll talk to you later. Later on, the Prophet got a dream in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him that he could not do that it was wrong. Therefore, he went back to that individual and he apologized to him. And he said, I will give you my attention wherever you want it and whenever you want it. So that's what the Holy Prophet practiced, and that's what he preached. So think about our own interactions on a day-to-day basis. We get so distracted, even with our own kids, right? Like they're trying to engage us and we're like, no, we have to give them attention. Again, I know we're all human, and a lot of times it's not on purpose, but what we have to learn from is from the Quran and from the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And there are so many stories which illustrate the rights of the individuals with special needs. And again, I think we've already gone over this. So just to go over the key takeaway points, again, individuals with special needs are just like you and me. They're not aliens. They're from this planet. Most of them can talk, think, do everything that we do, They have families who are regular families. And again, another thing which personally I don't like being told is that people always tell me, you're a Jannati, you're going to go to Jannat straight because you have such a huge hardship. My child is not a hardship for me. My child is my pride, my joy, the most precious thing for me. I appreciate the sentiment, but my child is just like anyone else's child, right? So the act of being a parent in itself is, I think, jihad, but treat us like regular families. And so at the end, I would just like to say congratulations. You're all now ambassadors for special needs individuals and families, and I hope that whatever we've talked about over here, it has resonated with you, and I hope we keep on doing this in this particular mosque. More and more people can join us, and my dream is that one day every special needs family is surrounded by friends and families who support them, who cheer for them, and who consider them as any other family, and who just want to be around them, not because it's obligated, yes, but they want to, right? So thank you so much. I'm going to play this video and then.
My name is Myrtle Jarubi. I have 4 children. My oldest son, Masjid, is diagnosed with autism, intellectual disability, and epilepsy. Masjid was 4 when he was diagnosed. We felt like we had a loss when we found out the news because we didn't know
And yeah, one last thing, if you know of someone who has special needs, please refer them to Darus Sakina. You know, they'll get a vast area of information and inclusion, and I think it will be pretty good for them. I need to get out of this. Yeah, I think I'm done. Let me just make sure I'm. Yep, nope. I think this was the last slide, but I just want to make sure that there isn't anything else after this. Okay, right here. Okay, yeah. So I'll open the floor to questions, and again, you can ask me anything you want to. No question is unnecessary. If there's anything I can do to guide you today, I'd be more than happy to do that. I mean, if there's, you know, if you're curious about something, or I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. Sure. Yes.
So first of all, Jazakallah khair. It's very inspiring. I love this. Now I have one question. Again, I'm Abdul Hamid Morsi, the director here in MasjidAlSalam. We need to know from you, what can we do in Ramadan for the special needs? We really don't know. So if you can give us like literally few help as Masjid.
Absolutely.
Is this something you want to eat?
Yes.
Start with us, the students with special needs, they pray Taraweeh, what
Yes.
do they need?
Thank you so much. That is such a thoughtful question. And Ramzan, you know, it's a month of blessings, and being at the mosque is so rewarding and inspiring for the soul. Now, what can the mosque do for special needs individuals? I think what we did at the Cincinnati mosque, and I think some mosques have over here, they had a sensory room. And the sensory room basically was a room with like just floor seating, and they had some toys, and then people would volunteer as like sitters. So when the moms would go and pray, the sitters would watch the kids over there. Now, again, a lot of special needs families would love to break iftar with the rest of the community, but again, for those, because part of, for example, the autism spectrum disorder is also sensory issues, right? Those sensory issues can come from sound, they can come from light. So if every mosque, and I've seen this at churches, they have sensory rooms which are always there, and people just volunteer to watch the children while the parents are engaged in prayer. I think that will be very helpful to have that. And even if you can't do that every day, perhaps on the big nights, like even the Khatme Quran, on those days, if we can make it happen, it would be so magical for all the special needs families. I think the thought is there, and I think that is something we can execute, and I think we can, at the level of Darus Sakina, we can even kind of help you out with it and see what we can do. But yeah, I think my suggestion would be to have a sensory room on a regular basis. Yes. So that's a great question. So typical sensory room is typically a room which has more floor seating, which allows kids to kind of lie down, relax. They also have like those big bean bags, because it gives the kids a sense of being hugged tight. A lot of sensory rooms have like swings in them, because for a lot of autistic kids who have sensory dysregulation, the motion of the swing regulates them. Most of them have very dim lighting, so the kids can calm down. A lot of them have sensory toys in them. So for example, they may have like, although we all hate it, like slime, those sorts of things which are good for sensory touch. That's essentially what most sensory rooms have. I mean, and again, the swing, if you can't do a swing, even like a rocking chair, that could sort of give the same motion and may help the kids regulate. Exactly, anything to calm them down. And at that motion, the rocking motion, it's very calming, as for babies as well, but for adults with exactly, anything that is like soft, squishy balls, you know. A lot of kids with special needs have sensory and motor issues, so they may not be able to manipulate like finer motor toys, but like toys like, for example, putting those, you know, the pegs in, like those are good. Anything that's easier to manipulate is good. Thank you. Assalam alaikum. So I would say that depending upon the needs of the individual, now in Ohio, when I was in Cincinnati, we didn't have a lot of adults with special needs, we had more kids. But I think that when it comes to special needs families, some adults also need sensory rooms. So maybe at the mosque level, for example, for Ramadan, it may be better to have 2 rooms, one for, and we can divide them as per age group, one for younger kids, one for older kids. And again, you know, being a special needs mom, I know my child's limitations, you know. So it's very important to have like a very transparent conversation with the parents. So it'll require like almost like an intake form, right? Like, what are the aversions? You know, what can we do? And sometimes, you know, like for example, in our mosque in Ohio, one of the parents would stay with the child, with the other one would be away, so they could tag team, because even if you volunteer, you may not be a trained expert for behavioral therapy, or you know, so you may just be, but you have to handle them carefully. So the parents can stay if they want to, and tag team, one goes, one stays there. But I would say, because Houston is such a big community, and I am sure there are adults now with special needs who need sensory rooms, I would advocate for 2 rooms based off age cutoffs. Yeah. Yes. Right. Those adults, right. 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 Exactly. And it could be like a small room in which, you know, if the parents want to pray with them, they can pray with them. Because at that age, the other thing is there's a lot of social isolation. Like I said, that once you age out of the school system, special needs adults are mostly just at home the whole day, isolated, no social contact, and we all know how much social exposure is important for a mental well-being. Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm so happy that you're thinking about it, and I'm so happy that that family contacted you and like planted that seed. Because I think, you know, one of the biggest things is that if you're praying in a huge room like this and suddenly your child has a temper tantrum or starts crying, you don't want to take away from the experience from the other people too, right? So if we have accommodations, it's going to be a win-win for everyone. Yes, yes. Separately, right? But again, you know, practice makes perfect. Like my daughter Lena, now, after going to the Sunday school for so many years, she doesn't pray like how you would typically pray, but she has her like zikr she does, you know. And because, you know, one of the biggest things which is lacking from the Muslim communities, special needs community, is the religious aspect of it, right? Because one of the biggest things we can teach our kids to avert anxiety, depression in the future is praying, the power of praying. And a lot of us don't have access to that. I mean, we can do it at home, but being in the mosque, it's something else, you know. So yeah. All right, now I'll request the Imam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa salatu salamu ala rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala. I would like to take 5 minutes of your time, inshallah. And probably what I would really love to focus on is to add another perspective from an Islamic point of view about how we look at the people around us who have special needs. I think I did hear great things about equity versus equality, about non-discrimination and all that stuff, and having full respect and working on their potentials. And that is really the minimum humanitarian feeling that we should have towards anyone who have special needs. This is not the bar of Islamic requirement. This is way below the Islamic requirement. And I do believe that unfortunately in most of our Muslim countries, we probably are not only lacking the Islamic value, but even lacking the humanitarian values that unfortunately push people usually to discriminate against people with disabilities, or to see themselves with some superiority over others. But let me just tell you from an Islamic perspective how we look at them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that we have not created jinn and ins, or the people and jinn, except so that they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the whole life, from beginning till end, is not about how much you accumulate, it's not about what degrees you have, it's not about what position or status you get. It's all about how you value in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we know this, when we treat or interact with people with that balance, then things will change dramatically. Because now we know that Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said that the most closer to people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those who are weak, are those who are in need. And that actually tells us that sometimes when we probably are looking with some sense of superiority over others, we're just forgetting about the whole purpose of our life here, because we're looking at this temporary life where we are getting some more, some better position or some better visibility in front of others, and we evaluate people accordingly. Whereas in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the sight of the Dar al-Akhirah, in sight of the eternity life that we will be living at, it's totally different. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said that the first people who get to Jannah are those who are weak. Those are the ones who will get to Jannah first. So the way that we look at our brothers and sisters who are with special needs is more like those are the gems in our communities. Those are the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may bring all the rahmah, the mercy on our community because of. And that's actually above and beyond what we call non-discrimination or giving them equal opportunity or equity or all those things that are very low bar compared to what Islam really looks at them. So in addition to how he sallallahu alayhi wasallam treated them, I think the sister was talking about Abasa wa Tawalla when he sallallahu alayhi wasallam met with the people of Quraysh, and he was trying to convince them about Islam. And then Abdullah ibn Maktoum came, who was blind, and he was like, I have some questions for you. And he sallallahu frowned at him because he was so busy with other things that in his mind at that time, they were more of a priority to him. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, you can't do this, and it is in the surah in the Quran that we will be reciting until the day of judgment. So to be just more clear, inshallah, whatever we are getting or doing here at MasjidAlSalam is not just because we want to be giving them the equity or to just give them respect, but we truly have to believe that because of these, the barakah is still in our community. Because of them, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be merciful with us. And that is why we should give them all what they deserve of our attention. In addition to that, they deserve our love and respect, inshallah, and our hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will continue showing us with His blessings. Jazakumullah kul khair. Thank you very much for all what you're doing. I'm so impressed and happy, inshallah, alhamdulillah, and proud of what we're doing here at MasjidAlSalam. So thank you very much for the sisters, and thank you for inviting me here. Jazakumullah khair, sallallahu ala Muhammad. Yes. Yes. Yeah, تفضل. أها. نعم. نعم. So the question is ممكن أترجمه؟ ممكن أترجمه؟ Okay. So the question is about a girl who is about 20 years old and she has Down syndrome. She sometimes prays and sometimes she does not pray. What is the ruling about this? So in fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah will never ask people to do things that are not in their capability. And the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, رفع القلم عن ثلاث, and that the requirements of following or adhering to Islam has been lifted from people of three categories, and among them people who are have some mental challenges. So if your daughter is not able to understand or realize what salah means, and she's just doing it because you have taught her, then she's very fine. I mean, the fact that she is not able to pray or she's not willing to pray, it's not because she is rejecting prayer, but because she just doesn't understand the consequences or even the significance of that. So if that is the case, then of course she is excused, inshallah, and there's no issue. When it comes to hijab, I mean, the requirement on her is lifted again, but on the parent or whoever is working to support her or is responsible for her is required to keep her, inshallah, with modest hijab as much as possible. So it's just like when you have a little child, a little girl who is not yet baligh, but she is in a position, she's in a shape that might be attractive to the opposite gender. So it is the requirement on the parents to ask her or to enable her to put the hijab, but she herself is still not will not be accountable for not wearing hijab because she is not yet baligh. Similarly, it applies to this situation, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you everyone for coming in today and attending our event. We are with Darul Sakina. We have a table outside if anyone needs any more information. We can pass out brochures, and please register if you know any families. Let them know about our resources as well as our Sunday school programs. Thank you. Jazakallah.